Welcome to another episode of Babes in Bookland. I'm your host, Alex Franca, and today I'm discussing Wild, From Lost to Found on the Pacific Crest Trail by Cheryl Strayed with my friend Lauren. Before we get into it, here's a great review from Apple Podcasts by Kara in LA. This is one of my favorite new podcasts. Alex is thoughtful and engages with the material from the memoir and with her guest in a thoroughly engaging way. I had not read the book they are discussing, and that didn't matter at all. I'm excited for more episodes. Thanks, Karen LA. I'm excited to bring you this episode. Let's do it. Hi, Lauren.
Hello, Alex.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I know this is one of your favorite books. In fact, you have reread it in order to prepare for the podcast, and A+ to you for that.
Woohoo! Thank you. Yes, definitely one of my favorite books.
Yeah, so tell me why.
Oh gosh, I just love Cheryl Strayed in general. I've read Tiny Beautiful Things, one of her other books, and I just love how raw she is. She is so not trying to be something she isn't, and she's very honest about womanhood, and I just think she's really relatable.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I completely missed it when it was like the phenomenon that it was in 2012, which is when it came out. And then the movie followed that year, I believe, which you and I are going to be talking about in a future bonus episode. Yes. So that's exciting. But it was really fun to visit it now, 12 years later, knowing it was a phenomenon and kind of finally figuring out like, okay, what was this all about? And the phrase, wherever you go, there you are, just popped into my head so many times as I was reading this book. That phrase has come up in past episodes. And to me, it means that you can't outrun yourself. You can't outrun your problems. You have to face them. You have to go through them. And that's really what Cheryl's journey in Wild was for me. It's a story of a woman coming face to face with herself and everything that she's gone through and reflecting on who she is during this physical task that changes her and transforms her and makes her think in ways that are really unexpected, even to her, which we'll talk about. It's about surprising yourself and seeing what you're capable of. And it was just a really beautiful and inspiring read, and goes to show that you don't have to read a memoir right when it comes out to be inspired by it. Years later, right. It's working. And even though we aren't all able to go on solo hikes for 3 months because that, we have lives, yes. I think there are a lot of takeaways that can be applied to this, whatever metaphorical journey you're on, because it kind of feels like we're always on a journey, right?
Absolutely. I so resonate with that. That first quote you said about just wherever you are. What was the quote again?
Wherever you go, there you are.
Wherever you go, there you are. Because I often will find myself like living in the future or living in the past and just having a hard time being present and realizing, wait, exactly where I am right now on this earth is where I should be. Even if I have goals I haven't hit or if I have regrets, it's like everything has led me to this point. And I feel like that was a huge theme throughout the book.
It is hard to live in the present sometimes though, right? It feels like the past is kind of always knocking on the door and you feel like you have to be so focused on the future in order to create the type of future that you want.
Totally.
Yeah, this was definitely a good reminder that sometimes it's good just to be where you are.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. I feel like she talks a lot about that with being on the trail and everything. I mean, she, as we'll get into, I'm sure, just runs into so many things she wasn't expecting. And it's like, at the end of the day, it was all supposed to happen.
Exactly. All right, let's get into it. So Wild was published in 2012, and this is her dedication for Brian Lindstrom and for our children, Carver and Bobby. So I like to start all of the episodes off with some quick topics before we dive deeper. Lolo, have you been on any part of the PCT? I feel like you must have, right?
I actually have not been on any part of the PCT.
My God,
and I live right next to it. So it's a goal of mine.
You must.
Yeah, I need to. I mean, like when she's talking about all the different mountain ranges she sees in Oregon, I'm just like, these are in my backyard. I completely see these mountains when I'm just driving around town. And it's so cool to know like there are people hiking the PCT right now. Actually, a friend of mine is hiking it as we speak.
Whoa, like how many miles?
The whole thing. Yeah, Whoa. He started about a month and a half ago, and he actually just passed through, and some friends of ours dropped off food for him.
Wow.
So
that
crazy.
Is so cool. Okay. Well, then he'll be a really good guide if you ever do decide to do a part of it and
Seriously.
he's hiking solo.
Yeah.
Good for
I
him.
know.
That is
Seriously.
so cool.
It's pretty neat.
Okay, next quick topic. You're like my hiking, outdoorsy, rock climbing friend. So I would just love to hear like what's the best experience that you've had out in nature?
Ooh,
Doing your
gosh.
thing.
Doing my thing. Oh man, so many memories from college come to mind. I went to college in Flagstaff, Arizona, and it's just littered with mountains and just so much climbing and hiking. It's a great place to explore. But after college, I went on a 6-week road trip with my best friend Claudia, and we traveled from Arizona to Utah, Montana, Idaho, Colorado. We just did a whole road trip in my Subaru and kind of lived out of it and hiked on BLM land and just, it was quite the adventure.
What is BLM land, just for people who aren't familiar with that acronym?
It's Bureau Land Management.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can find little spots that you can camp for free and things like that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I would say that whole road trip was the best experience I've ever had. I mean, we rock climbed together, which was really liberating because I had always rock climbed with my guy friends who had all the gear, all the knowledge. And then my friend Claudia learned all of that, and she was able to set up a top rope for us, and we were able to belay each other. And it was just so cool as women to accomplish that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just having the freedom to kind of dip out of a place or stay longer or just say yes to everything that came our way. So that's probably my best experience was that road trip.
That's really cool. I have to
Yeah.
say, like, and we'll get into it a little bit more, but as a woman reading about Cheryl's solo hike experience, I had a lot of like anxiety and
Yes.
fear for her. And I kept waiting for her to honestly tell us a story about a time she was sexually assaulted or harassed,
Completely.
right? And
Yeah.
fortunately, she's never sexually assaulted, but the harassment does happen. And we will talk about that. Was it scary for you and Claudia? Like, did you ever have moments where you're like, okay, like we are two smaller, young women, like out on our own, and that can feel like exposed a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. We sort of had our kind of roles in the road trip. So I was primarily the driver. For one thing, it was my car, and I was a little bit like, I'll just take the reins and kind of be the main driver. And then she was the one finding the BLM land for us to camp on or like the next destination, along with, seeing different national parks and things along the way. So we had our roles, and yeah, we came across probably one of the scariest experiences, talking about your point of feeling very vulnerable as women on the road together. We had planned it so that we would woof in each state that we went to, and woofing
is not what Ryan from The Office ever wanted it to be.
Yes, that's amazing. Yeah, not from The Office, but it is worldwide opportunities on organic farms. You create an account and then you can contact these farm hosts and say, hey, we're traveling through. And the whole point is you help them with their farm, and then they feed you and essentially house you for helping them out. So it's a win-win for both parties. And when we were going through Colorado, I was really wanting to work on a weed farm just to have that experience. I was like, we're in Colorado, for crying out loud. Let's find a weed farm. And we found one, and the woofing host was in contact with us, seemed like a friendly guy. We were like, okay, let's do it. So we drove to this really small town in Colorado. And as we entered this town, like the vibe just kind of shifted. It was just like looking around, it was a little scary, like just the homes were a little bit more run down. It was a small population, but we were along for this ride and this adventure, and we really trusted this woofing source. And every other camping host that we had, or farm host, I should say, every other one was so positive. But we pulled up to this guy's farm, and it was him, probably like this 30-something-year-old guy, and probably 4 of his friends. And they did not have a functioning weed farm that we thought we'd be clipping weed and enjoying ourselves. It was completely run down. They didn't have any kind of vegetables growing, and they said the deer had just eaten them the night before, and it was a functioning farm, just 24 hours ago. And then we show up and it's not. And the guys that were hosting the farm seemed to be on some hard drugs. Like they were honestly nodding out in front of us, and they had really scary dogs. And, we were like, we just felt that intuitive feeling that Cheryl talks about in the book, that like just women know when they're in an unsafe situation.
Yeah.
And it really had nothing to do with the lack of vegetables on the farm or anything that we expected. It was just this energy from the guys that were hosting the farm. And,
Yeah.
if I like wrote a transcript on the things they said, everything was normal, but it was just this vibe that we picked up on that was like, we're not safe here. They offered to let us like sleep in their house and, oh, you can set up your sleeping bags on the ground in here. And we were like, no, we're going to stay in a tent. That's what we've been doing at the other farms. And, they're kind of pushing for that. And we spent about 2 hours there just sort of getting a feel for things. And then Claudia and I honestly gave each other this look that was just known between us. And we said, let's get out of here. Let's just completely leave. This is part of this road trip, is that we have the freedom to do whatever we want. We do not owe these men anything.
Oh, I love that.
So it was so honestly the scariest experience, but like one of the most liberating at the same time. So we told them we were going to go to town to get some groceries, and they're like, great, we can go in our truck and we can all drive together. No, we have to get some other things for camping. So we're going to take our own car. And we just left. And an hour or two into the drive, once we were completely out of that town, we did text the woofing host and said, hey, we changed our minds. We won't be returning. And he literally just responded, word. Like, it was just, again, like not a threatening situation, but just something we did not need to stick around for.
Yeah.
God forbid.
Good for you. I think sometimes there's like this niceness that women feel like they have to have or be. Like you have to be nice, and no, you're overthinking it, and no, like they're not being threatening and you're just reading the situation wrong. But it's always better to be safe rather than sorry, right?
Oh, yeah.
Especially in a situation
100%.
like that where it's so easy to remove yourself from it. I don't know. That just I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
So proud of you guys for not kowtowing to like cultural standards, I guess, and just putting yourself and your safety and your intuition first.
Totally. Yeah, it crossed our minds that, maybe we should stay. They had great reviews on the farm. I'm sure they would have been fine enough, but it was just the discomfort was too strong in both of us. And I'm like, yeah, we just had to listen to that intuition. And I totally agree. We live in a society where women are silenced, or we are taught kind of innately to just like kind of play along and be friendly and nice. And you see that in the book too. I mean,
yeah, we'll get to that for sure. Using good judgment.
Yeah.
Love that. Love that. Women using good judgment. Yay. Women feeling free to use good judgment. Because I think that's a big part of it too. Last quick topic. Cheryl Strayed picked her own last name.
Okay.
How flipping badass is that?
Totally badass.
That was so cool. I loved that. After her divorce, she decides to choose a new last name for herself. And this is what she writes. Nothing fit until one day when the word strayed came into my mind. Immediately, I looked it up in the dictionary and knew it was mine. Its layered definition spoke directly to my life and also struck a poetic chord. To wander from the proper path, to deviate from the direct course, to be lost, to become wild, to be without a mother or father, to be without a home, to move about aimlessly in search of something, to diverge or digress. I had diverged, digressed, wandered, and become wild. I didn't embrace the word as my new name because it defined the negative aspects of my circumstances or life, but because even in my darkest days, I saw the power of the darkness, saw that in fact I had strayed, and that I was astray, and that from the wild places my straying had brought me, I knew things I couldn't have known before. I just think that's so cool. I love hearing stories of that. And like you hear stories of people getting married and like creating a new last name for themselves. And I think it's beautiful when people name themselves.
I know. I think so too. It's kind of wild that we wild.
How often are we going to say that word?
Take a drink. But it's interesting to think that we are born and we are named by someone else, and then we live with that identity. And it's like, yeah, what if you just didn't resonate with the name you were given, or always hated your last name, or you get married and you want to keep your last name and you feel this pressure to change it. I think it's so cool that we're coming around to realizing like you can do whatever you want and identify however you want to identify.
Yeah, I love that.
Cool.
Okay, let's dive deeper. Cheryl's family. Her mother, Barbara, went by Bobby. She is like Cheryl's lodestar, her North Star. And at the very beginning of the memoir, we discover that Bobby has died young of lung cancer, late
Yeah.
stage. And that's really the first seed that ultimately starts Cheryl on her journey of hiking the PCT solo. And this is what she wrote about her mother. Her love was full throated and all encompassing and unadorned. Every day she blew through her entire reserve. Just what a beautiful way to write about someone, especially a mother. I just imagine, I haven't seen the movie yet. I'm going to watch it. I purposefully didn't watch it so that I wasn't like confused by what the movie did and the memoir.
Yes.
I just feel like what a lucky person Cheryl was to have a mother like this, who I think very selflessly put her children before herself and gave them everything she had, even when it wasn't that much.
I know. I love that theme kind of pops back up in the book where she's realizing, oh, growing up poor and not having everything that maybe her peers at school had, or just comparing herself to other families. It's again led her to this point of like resilience where she's able to go on this trail and be poor on it and,
Yeah.
have these care packages sent to her where she doesn't have a lot of money and be able to power through instead of, thinking she needs anything else. And it's because of how her mom raised her completely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she saw her mother survive and she knows that she can too. So Cheryl's father was very abusive. And after many leavings and then going backs, Cheryl's mother finally leaves him for good, taking Cheryl and her two siblings, Karen and Leaf, with her. And she writes, "She worked and worked and worked, and still we were poor. We aren't poor," my mother said again and again, "because we're rich in love." She would mix food coloring into sugar water and pretend it was a special drink. That unlocked a core memory of me doing that with my cousins. We would put food coloring in Sprite and have like tea
Cute.
parties.
Yeah, totally.
Cheryl continues, "She loved us more than all the named things in the world. She was optimistic and serene, except for a few times when she lost her temper and spanked us with a wooden spoon, or the one time she yelled fuck and broke down crying because we wouldn't clean our room. She was kind-hearted and forgiving, generous and naive." I just love that she paints this very full picture of her mom. She doesn't martyr her. I mean, yes, it sounds like her mother was a beautiful human being, but she's also like, she still lost her patience sometimes and she lost her temper. And honestly, it made me feel when I read that part, like I have had moments with my children and I love them with every single atom of my human being.
Yeah.
But like, there are just times where you just need to yell the word fuck because like, like everything is hitting you at once.
Yeah.
And so it was just nice to like know that other moms experience that, even wonderful moms like Bobby.
Very validating.
Yes, exactly. So Bobby remarries a man named Eddie, and together they buy this plot of land with some settlement money that he had. Eddie had broken his back at a job, and so they got money for it. And they all move into this rundown house on the property. And Cheryl writes, "In our new life as pioneers, even meeting the simplest needs often involved a grueling litany of tasks, rigorous and full of boondoggle. Each night, the black sky and the bright stars were my stunning companions. Occasionally, I'd see their beauty and their solemnity so plainly that I'd realize in a piercing way that my mother was right, that someday I would be grateful, and that in fact, I was grateful now, that I felt something growing in me that was strong and real. It was a thing that had grown in me that I remembered years later when my life became unmoored by sorrow, the thing that would make me believe that hiking the Pacific Crest Trail was my way back to the person I used to be." It's nice that she's able to also take the time to, I don't know, like how often do we reflect on our childhood and be like, oh, this is the dot that I can connect to that dot.
Right.
You know?
Completely. I know. And I, again, just love how raw she is, like describing her mom and how her upbringing was not perfect, but just how it shaped her into who she is today.
Yeah. And that she can have like an admiration for that or a peace with that as she tries to figure out like what the next step is for her in her life.
Absolutely.
Cheryl attends St. Thomas for college, and they're in Minnesota at this point. And her acceptance letter mentions that parents of students can take classes at St. Thomas for free, which I thought was really cool. I'd never heard of that before.
Yeah, same here.
I don't know if that's still going on because this is all happening in the early 90s. Her mother had always wanted her degree. She had started her family very young and was unable to pursue it then. And though her mother felt that at 40, it was maybe too late to pursue this, she and Cheryl ultimately agreed that she should do it as long as on campus they can basically pretend not to know one another.
Right.
That was so cute.
I know, very cute.
And Cheryl wrote, "She went to college and earned straight A's. Sometimes I hugged her exuberantly when I saw her on campus. Other times I sailed by as if she were no one to me at all." So it's in Bobby's senior year of college that she is diagnosed with late stage lung cancer. Cheryl writes writes about how there wasn't much to say as her mother started deteriorating. Cheryl had been so inquisitive as a child, and Bobby so open that she knew everything about her. She writes, all through my childhood, I asked and asked, making her describe those scenes more and more, wanting to know who said what and how, what she'd felt inside while it was going on, where so-and-so stood and what time of day it was. And she told me, with reluctance or relish, laughing and asking why on earth I wanted to know. I wanted to know. I couldn't explain. But now that she was dying, I knew everything. My mother was in me already, not just the parts of her I knew, but the parts of her that had come before me too. Have you taken the time to like ask your parents about the people that they were before you
Oh
and your
my
brother?
gosh. Absolutely. I have had more of an interest as I've gotten older, as I've kind of approached the age where my parents met and started having kids. I just see them now as, oh, wow, you were a person before you were my mom, you know?
It's a revelation, right?
Yeah, it really is. I think it also gives me a better understanding of how I was raised or, you know, just their perspective on things.
I feel like it's so special that Cheryl had the foresight, I guess, or the, I don't know what word I'm thinking of, the intuition, maybe,
Yeah,
to talk to her mom as a child.
right.
It was such a gift since she lost her mother so young. Like she didn't have to look back and feel like she didn't know her.
Right. Completely.
This was just a nice reminder that like they don't last forever. They're not here forever. So
Mm-hmm.
she writes this, nothing could ever bring my mother back or make it okay that she was gone. Nothing could put me beside her the moment she died. Cheryl hadn't actually been there when her mother passed away. She'd gone back to her mother's home to tend to some things. She continues, it broke me up. It cut me off. It rumbled me end over end. It took me years to be the woman my mother raised, to remember how she said honey and picture her particular gaze. I would suffer. I would suffer. I would want things to be different than they were. The wanting was a wilderness, and I had to find my way out of the woods. It took me 4 years, 7 months, and 3 days to do it. I didn't know where I was going until I got there. It was a place called the Bridge of the Gods. That is the last stop on her PCT journey. So there's so much
Yes.
symbolism in her book too. I
I
mean, I did like
know.
went hand in hand, but like she's literally in the woods and then she's like out of the woods, you know?
Completely.
To me, the reader, it seemed like Cheryl had so much guilt that she wasn't there in that last moment that her mother took her last breath because she was there for her mother through so many other things.
Yes. Yeah.
It felt unfair, but sometimes like you hear stories of it seemingly happening intentionally like that, where people will wait until their loved ones are out of the room, feels like they can finally leave.
Right.
But that's just
Exactly.
heart-wrenching.
Oh, completely. I know that's the tear-jerking part of the book for sure.
Yeah. And then the last thing that I'll say about her mother right now is that Cheryl writes, my mom was dead. My mom was dead. My mom was dead. Everything I ever imagined about myself disappeared into the crack of her last breath. And I do think that Cheryl views herself through the lens of her mother's eyes, if that makes sense too. And so much of this is also Cheryl figuring out who she is now that her mother is no longer on the earth with her.
Right. I know the parts where she writes about how she has to live her life now without her mom and she doesn't know life without her mom. It's just like, oh, that really, really hits you hard. It's
devastating.
It's completely devastating. You can just feel how much she is obsessed with her mom. She loves her so much. Yeah, and admires her. And it's as she's in the hospital dying and everything, it's the way she craves for her mom, you know, to say that she was
a perfect
the best daughter. Yeah. And, you know, she knows that her mom feels that way, but she's just like trying to milk every possible thing she can from those moments.
Yeah, it's crushing. There's another relationship that she's reconciling as she's out on the trail, and this is with her ex-husband, Paul. She was married to Paul very young, and she's married to Paul during the death of her mother. And she writes, my husband, Paul, did everything he could to make me feel less alone. He was still the kind and tender man I'd fallen for a few years before, the one I'd loved so fiercely that I'd shocked everyone by marrying just shy of 20. But once my mother started dying, something inside of me was dead to Paul, no matter what he said or did. My connection to him and his gloriously unfractured life only seemed to increase my pain. It wasn't his fault. Being with him felt unbearable, but being with anyone else did too. The only person I could bear to be with was the most unbearable person of all, my mother. And she writes about how she starts having affairs because I think she just needs to like not be who she is anymore. In
Completely.
that moment, like she doesn't say this, but it feels like she just needed to like not be the daughter of like a dead mother.
Totally.
And like her husband Paul knew that, obviously.
Yeah.
Like you can't escape that identity. But with
Yeah.
strangers, you can. And the physical act of sex, right? Like it takes you outside of yourself, out of your
Sure.
head. And she tries really hard to make it work with Paul, and she just can't. And she writes about this really emotional moment where she confesses about the affairs to him. And he's so kind and wonderful. And he continues to show up for her and be a best friend to her even after their divorce.
He sounds incredible. I mean,
I
really,
hope
like,
he's found like a wonderful situation now, for sure.
again, everything's meant to be the way it played out, but can you imagine a better reaction? Just someone understanding that this affair is more than him. It really had nothing to do with him. It was
Right.
just like what you were saying. She needed to like disassociate from that whole life. And he probably was a reminder of her mom and, treated her the way her mom did. And she just wanted to like say, fuck that to everything that was good in her life and say, I'm going to lean into the really bad parts of life just to
Feel something
feel.
different. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last relationship that she kind of has to reconcile on the trail is the one with her father. And through the memoir, we learn more about her father. She writes about this therapy session where she tells the therapist that she approaches sex more like a guy because she can be very detached. And he asks her who she thinks detached from her. And she jokes that now they probably have to talk about her father, but it's
Right.
true. Like I said before, he was physically abusive to Bobby, verbally threatened her and the kids on numerous occasions. Cheryl only sees him 3 times in her life after the age of 6 when they get divorced. And at one point, she talks about this session that she has with an astrologer in New York. And the
Yes.
astrologer asks Cheryl if her father was a Vietnam vet. And Cheryl says no. But the astrologer says, perhaps not literally, but he has something in common with some of these men. He was deeply wounded. He was damaged. His damage has infected his life, and it infected you. Wounded was all I could manage. Yes, said the astrologer, and you're wounded in the same place. That's what fathers do if they don't heal their wounds. They wound their children in the same place. The father's job is to teach his children how to be warriors, to give them the confidence to get on the horse and ride into battle whenever it's necessary to do so. If you don't get that from your father, you have to teach yourself.
Mm,
Oh, and that part gave me chills, especially the
totally.
line, if fathers don't heal their wounds, they wound their children in the same place.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like we are so much more aware of the effects of generational trauma,
Yes.
but being aware of something doesn't make it okay. It doesn't mean that we're healed. It's
Yeah.
kind of just like, oh shit, now we know. Okay, but now like
Right.
what do we do about that now?
Right. Yeah, it gives me hope for like all the future generations because men are coming around to going to therapy, healing those wounds, again, just not shoving it under the rug.
Yes, let's
Mhm.
get to the trail.
Let's get on that trail.
She makes a decision to hike the Pacific Crest Trail. She's in line to pay for a snow shovel at REI when she sees this guidebook about the Pacific Crest Trail. She picks it up, like it called to her, right? She like picks it
Yeah.
up, she like looks at it, and then she puts it back.
Hmm.
And she thinks back to what she had been doing since her mother's death and her divorce. And she met this guy, Joe, and they started doing heroin together. You kind of talked about how she starts turning to all of these, darker things. And she writes, it was good. It was like something inordinately beautiful and out of this world. Like I'd found an actual planet that I didn't know had been there all along. Planet Heroin, the place where there was no pain, where it was unfortunate, but essentially okay that my mother was dead and my biological father was not in my life. And my family had collapsed and I couldn't manage to stay married to the man that I love. Looking for not even a way out, but just a way to like numb the current circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, there's no other situation where you would ever describe things as okay, but it's like, yeah, a drug that's going to completely numb your state and makes a lot of sense why people can fall into that.
Yeah. And she writes about how every morning she'd wake up and tell herself, like, I'm not a junkie. This isn't me. But then as the day would go on and afternoon would happen, she was like, no, I get to do this. I get to waste my life. I get to be junk.
I get to.
Then she realizes that she's pregnant. It's not what she wants. And she starts crying and she realizes that this is not the life that she is meant to live. And it's in that moment that she remembers the guidebook and she drives to REI, she buys the book, and she writes that she has an abortion and starts learning how to make dehydrated food.
Oh, I just love her.
She's like, okay, not this. Let's try that. She writes,
Completely.
I had to change. I had to change was the thought that drove me in those months of planning, not into a different person, but back to the person I used to be. Strong and responsible, clear-eyed and driven, ethical and good. And the PCT would make me that way. There, I'd walk and think about my entire life. I'd find my strength again, far from everything that had made my life ridiculous. Early June, she drives to Portland with boxes filled with dehydrated food, backpacking supplies, money. She writes, I'd spent the previous weeks compiling them, addressing each box to myself at places I'd never been, stops along the PCT. And I thought that was cool because just logistically, like the logistics of hiking the trail, especially for the length that she did it, she was going from basically the Mojave Desert to the top of California. That was her original plan. And as someone who's never done anything even close to that, I was like, oh, you have to send yourself boxes
Right.
of like, yes, that makes sense.
Oh yeah. There's so much trust too, to like have faith that the package is going to make it.
Girl, I kept being like, what if something happened to her friend Lisa? Like,
yeah, totally.
Even if she just like broke her leg and ended up in the hospital for like,
completely.
I mean, so many things have to like go right.
Yes.
Interesting. So her friend Lisa is the one who will be responsible for mailing everything to her. She flies to LA and she catches a ride to the Mojave Desert. This is the first step on her trip. And at this point, she's feeling really capable. Like she's camped throughout her life. She says she would self-label as an outdoorsy person. She has her backpack that she lovingly calls Monster. It's heavy as fuck. She literally puts it on for the first time and she's like, oh no.
Just a pendulum.
What have I done?
Oh, I love her. That balance of not knowing, like you said, not being totally naive, showing up with a little water bottle and some hiking shoes, but also all these things that, she comes to realize, I don't need this, or this is just weighing me down.
Throughout her journey, people will comment how big and heavy Monster is and that they couldn't handle that much weight. Yeah. So again, more symbolic stuff.
And just probably even more dramatized because she's a woman. If there were a man her age, whatever stature, carrying that backpack, maybe a couple comments, but it's her being alone and her size and then this monster of a backpack. It's just all the comments come in her way.
Totally. This is what she writes about her bag. It felt pretty awful. And yet perhaps this was how it felt to be a backpacker. I didn't know. I only knew it was time to go. So I opened the door and stepped into the light. Oh. All right. She's on the PCT, which she calls the Great Alone. She's on her way, walking the trail, which she writes, it turns out, is not very much like walking at all, which in fact resembles walking less than it does hell. Oh. Suffice it to say, she's not having the best time.
Yeah.
She is alone navigating a trail with this extremely heavy pack, boots that very quickly hurt her feet, and very quickly she starts losing toenails. And the knowledge that snakes and bears and other animals could literally be right around the corner. She does not allow herself to feel fear. She writes, fear begets fear. Power begets power. I will myself to beget power. And it wasn't long before I actually wasn't afraid. I was working too hard to be afraid. She will admit to people later on the trail that like she is afraid. I mean, she's not inhuman and completely can shut off this emotion, but she understands that if she allows herself to wallow in the fear and anxiety, then she will literally be stuck. And she can't afford to be stuck because she only has so much food and water and she's in the middle of nowhere. It is cool to think that like you have control over your brain and your thoughts. It can be really hard, but you do have control. You have to, it's like a tool that you have to sharpen.
Completely.
But when the going gets tough, the tough get going.
Yeah.
She's got her guidebook, The Pacific Crest Trail, Volume 1, California.
I love that she says the whole name every single time.
It's so cute.
It's great.
Nowadays, we can read, you can talk to your friend. Like I can go online and I'm sure there are people's blogs and accounts of their trips and what worked and what didn't work. But this is the 90s, remember? The internet was like a baby. Yeah. And so this is really the only thing that she's had to rely on. She writes, how can a book describe the psychological factors a person must prepare for? The despair, the isolation, the anxiety, and especially the pain, both physical and mental, which slices to the heart of the hiker's volition, which are the real things that must be planned for. No words can transmit those factors. And this quote is just ringing so true for her as she starts her journey because she's physically, mentally, emotionally just not prepared, even though she thought she was.
Completely.
At like quick glance, she has a bunch of stuff, but like she didn't even practice with the backpack on.
Right.
She just kind of like jumped head first.
I love how that kind of theme is throughout the whole book, where again, she's just so human. Like, you can only imagine something so much until you actually do it and realize, oh, this is not what I pictured it being at all.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, she had the intention of, setting up her little stove or practicing lighting it or carrying the pack with all the weight. And she just didn't do it because that's, like you were saying, you have lives, there's things that get in the way, and then you push it off to later. And then here she is on the trail, like, well, time to take it for a test drive. And it's like, I mean, it's just so real of her to admit that. And again, like you said, there's people who spend 10 years planning this or all the type of preparation you can manage. And she does do a lot of that. But then it's like the mental turmoil she's going through of like, wait, this sucks. Like walking in this heat and like this pack and my shoes hurt. It's just like so real of her to admit.
You can read everything you want and prepare for something, but like until it comes time to experience it, like the experience exists as it's going to exist.
Right.
No matter what you've done. And it kind of reminds me of childbirth too. Like, nothing can really prepare you for childbirth. You can read other people's accounts for it and you can have all the things that you're supposed to have, but like the baby's going to come how the baby comes.
Yeah.
And you just got to be able to go with the flow a little bit.
Totally. You really can't plan for everything.
You just can't.
At the end of the day.
You can't. And so I think there is something too with being like, all right, I'm not being stupid about this. I like have enough to survive and like I kind of know what I'm doing, but also it's just time to go. Like if I sit and think about this anymore, I can convince myself of the million reasons why I shouldn't do this or like why it's wrong for me,
Good point.
She talks about this beautiful moment very early on when she's already having all these doubts and she comes across sage and she writes, I reached over and I picked a handful of the leaves and rubbed them between my palms. Then I put my face in them and inhaled deeply, the way my mother had taught me to. It gives you a burst of energy, she'd always declared. Inhaling it now, I didn't so much smell the sharp, earthy scent of the desert sage as I did the potent memory of my mother. I looked up at the sky, mostly feeling my mother's presence, remembering why it was I thought I could hike this trail. Of all the things that convinced me that I should not be afraid while on the journey, of all the things I'd made myself believe so I could hike the PCT, the death of my mother was the thing that made me believe the most deeply in my safety. Nothing bad could happen to me, I thought. The worst already had.
Gosh, yeah.
So her mother is there for her on this journey.
Yeah.
That's such a sad place to come from. It's like so heartbreaking. But there is also the person who has nothing left to lose, has nothing left to lose.
It's so factual to her. Like the worst has already happened. She just knows that no matter what she endures on this trail, she's like, I've already experienced the worst pain I ever could imagine. So lay it on me, kind of.
Bring it on. Her body is very quickly feeling the effects of the hike. She pushes forward. She writes, my mind was a crystal vase that contained only one desire, and my body was a bag of broken glass. She talks about the wounds, the openings on her, basically anywhere that the straps are happening.
Yes, her hips.
Oh, it just
Shoulders,
sounds so painful. When you started rock climbing and stuff, obviously your body had to start adjusting to the terrain that you were now traversing, right? I mean, did you have like any big physical, you weren't rock climbing, 3 months every day in a row, but
I mean, gosh, nothing close to what she's described at all. I mean, like I did a little hiking in the Grand Canyon last year with friends and, we gained some good miles, got some blisters and stuff like that, but it's like over before you can think too much about it. Yeah. It's, it's everything I've ever done is like very manageable, and other than a couple blisters or calluses, it's like nothing compared to what she's endured, this pack on her back and the chafing. Oh my God. She's such a good writer. You like really feel her pain. The way she talks about bending over just to readjust her pack or like lift it up higher to like get some relief.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. Like I feel that back pain just sitting at my office chair. Like I can't, and I'm like all, but she's like, gotta keep hiking. I got 20 more miles to go. It's just for the day.
It really is so inspirational because I just kept thinking often, I don't know if I would be able to do this. Yeah. I don't know if I'd be able to do this. And then I was like, okay, but that doesn't serve her thinking that, and she definitely has, like we've said, like she has moments, but like when you realize that a thought doesn't serve you, throw it away. Like you said, she has to keep going. So why think anything else?
Exactly. There's no point in entertaining quitting because she's just not going to.
Yeah. Yeah. She writes, I was amazed that what I needed to survive could be carried on my back. And most surprisingly of all, that I could carry it, that I could bear the unbearable. The realizations about my physical and material life couldn't help but spill over into the emotional and spiritual realm. That my complicated life could be so simple was astounding. And for me, that was just such
Mm,
a lovely reminder to, I think we're kind of conditioned to believe that like owning a lot of things or having a lot of things is what makes us happy. But when
sure.
really you don't need that much to survive. And the more that you can simplify things, the more that you can get down to like the nitty gritty of like who you are and what you want and what makes you
Yeah.
happy. Maybe having too much stuff is not the answer.
Absolutely. Because it's true when you like endure someone you love dying or just a huge transition in life, it's like the last thing you're thinking about is what kind of MacBook computer you have or,
Yes.
that your phone charger broke. It's like, who gives a shit? Like it's just life is bigger than that. Yeah.
Yeah. She talks about like real shit. Like you said, she's very raw. She talks about having to dig a hole to poop in so that she can cover it back up. At one point, she gets her period on the trail and she talks about like
Yeah.
inserting this menstrual sponge, which I Googled and like apparently the FDA does not approve them.
Okay. I had never heard of that.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like,
I had
what?
never heard of it either. So I got curious and maybe it had been approved in the 90s and like now not so good. I also did think
Yeah.
that it was interesting that she never brought it up again. I was like, when did you take it out, Cheryl? Did you wash it? Like, what's
Yeah.
happening? I need more information.
Right. And did she just get one period?
A part of me wondered if maybe yes, because when you do go
Yeah.
through, I mean, she goes through a physical transformation. She loses a lot of weight, she gains a lot of muscle. Obviously, she'd been
Sure.
through a very stressful time, and our cycles react to all of that.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
But yeah,
That's
she
probably what
barely
happened.
mentioned it, which was interesting. She's moving slowly, much slower than she originally planned, but she has extreme moments of awe for the stunning surroundings that she's in. As she hikes, she sings out loud to keep predators away. She runs into a bull early on in her journey. She runs into the bull and she like starts yelling moose, actually, because the word bull doesn't come to her mind, but she just starts
Yeah.
yelling and she kind
Yes.
of like hides and closes her eyes and she doesn't see which direction the bull goes. And so
Right.
she's pondering, like, what do I do? Do I keep going forward? Do I go like and maybe run into the bull again? But if I go back, like that could be the direction that he went. And she
Totally.
writes, the bull could be in either direction since I hadn't seen where he'd run once I'd closed my eyes. I could only choose between the bull that would take me back and the bull that would take me forward,
Oh,
which,
God.
sometimes that's all we can do. Choose between the
Yeah,
bull.
completely. I love her
I
writing.
know it's so great. There's another moment where she later further into her trek, we'll kind of jump around as it works more for the podcast discussion, but she's now in the Sierras and snow covered and she's sitting on a fallen tree and she sees a fox and it's so beautiful and she just has this moment of awe and then the fox kind of sees her and they're looking at each other and then the fox runs away and she's like, come back, and then she just starts shouting, mom, 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 over and over again. She writes,
Oh,
it just came out of me. I went silent, spent. And that's her deepest wish, right? Is that her mom could come
right.
back. And for it
Yeah.
just to like come out of her, I think sometimes we surprise ourselves when like we sit in silence and solitude, the
Yeah.
truth bubbles up,
Right.
the like core of the
Completely.
truth.
Right. Like she just started yelling that at this animal and it's like she like felt this presence of this beautiful wild animal just doing its thing, living its life. And she just had a craving for her mom in that moment. And I know I love that so much that it just comes out of her, you know.
Yeah.
She's not like sitting down and taking an intentional moment to journal about her mom. It's like just this little fox appears.
Yeah.
She's like
She's just present.
blasted with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another thing too. And I wanted to talk about it later, but this feels like such a great spot. This entire memoir reminded me of how important silence and solitude can be. And in
Mm.
today's world, I don't know if we give ourselves enough time for either of those things. I know I
I
don't like
certainly
silence.
don't.
Yeah, like I constantly have music on or the
Me too.
television. If I don't have anything to do, I'm thumbing through my phone for no reason whatsoever. This memoir really did make me like rethink what I'm missing out on emotionally for myself by constantly
Yeah.
feeding myself information or like keeping my mind busy.
Yeah, and we don't have to go on the PCT to practice that. Like you were saying earlier, it's like you can sharpen this tool. You can walk around your neighborhood without headphones, without your phone at all, and without talking at all, and just kind of seeing what you see and just no real agenda. I think I really struggle with that too. It's like every therapist I've had or, someone I look up to is like, you should try mindfulness more, meditation. And I'm just like, yeah, when I do, that's where my anxiety creeps in. It's really hard to sit in silence and, it's a challenge for sure.
Yeah. But we know over here, like all the research is there. It's so good for
Yeah,
us.
I know.
Oh,
Jeez.
it's okay. We will.
Maybe we can help each other.
Yeah. I'll text you, be like, have you sat in silence today? You can text me. And I'll be like,
Exactly.
no, Lolo, my 5-year-old is screaming and my 2-year-old is screaming. Like, where's my silence? Come visit, then I can be in silence. We're going to start getting into the people that she starts to meet along the trail, and some
Yeah.
great ones and some interesting situations. At one point, she ventures off, noticing in her guidebooks that there are Jeep roads nearby. And she's like getting really hungry. You talked about earlier that she had put in the wrong gas for her stove. Mentioned
Mm,
that was a way that she was kind of like unprepared. And so she's unable to like cook any of the food that she had brought. And she's just really tired of eating like granola and dehydrated
yeah.
like soy milk products. So she's like, I'm just going to find a spot for me to get some real food. And she walks down this road and she sees three men in a truck. And they're all like, like cartoon eyes, like, who's this chick? And she's a good
Hmm.
looking woman. Like, let's be real,
Yeah.
by herself. And she writes about this moment where she's in the truck with one of them. This man, Frank, has offered to take her home for the evening to his wife for a home cooked meal and a shower. And he asks her if she's like Jane, the kind of man Tarzan would like. And that gave me such ick when I read that. I was like, ugh, that's
Yeah.
so gross. And Cheryl writes, as I sat there with him, I felt the way I always do when alone in certain circumstances with certain men, that anything could happen, that he could go about his business mannerly and kind, or he could grab me and change the course of things in an instant. And this really, I think, goes with what you spoke about earlier with your experience with Claudia. But it is like, as women, we can't help but feel vulnerable oftentimes in situations. And with the like influx of true crime stuff too, I know my mind immediately, I didn't know what was happening next. I hadn't read the memoir. And my mind was like, I would have heard if there's like a rape scene or if like she gets sexually assaulted, right? Like I was like,
Yeah.
this,
Do I need a little trigger
yeah,
warning?
exactly. But like that's where my
Yeah.
mind went. I was like, my first
100%.
instinct was this guy's not good. This is going to
Yeah.
be a bad situation. Fortunately, I was wrong, and Frank ends up just taking her home and she has a home cooked meal. But it's hard because it's like I want to be able to trust people, but I also don't want to be naive and stupid and like have something happen to me because I
Completely.
wanted to trust people.
Yeah, that's where I feel like our women's intuition really comes in handy.
Yeah.
Even just the smallest inkling of it, it's something to listen to. But I totally agree. It would be fascinating to live in a man's body for a year and just see what type of situations feel differently. I mean, I've had a lot of conversations with my women friends about backpacking alone or camping alone or hiking, anything outdoors. And when it comes to our biggest fears around that, is it the fear of a rattlesnake or is it the fear of another male hiker, taking advantage of you? And it's always the latter.
Yeah.
And it's like I talk to my guy friends, and I mean, oh yeah, there's all this fear about not having enough water and animal predators. And it's like realistically, that is more what you'd think you'd run into on a trail or something. But I mean, just statistically, us women have to be very precautious of that kind of thing. And so I know she has to really trust a lot of people on her journey. And I always got that feeling too, where I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah, foreboding.
oh,
Yeah, just like tension in my body. Did you
yes.
see the thing a few months ago where it was like if there was a man down one path and a bear, and the women would always go towards the bear?
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, God.
That's me.
Throughout Cheryl's journey, she does meet people who are mostly very helpful.
Yes.
Like I said, I was kind of waiting for nefarious stuff to happen. And there is one incident, it's baby nefarious, I will say, so that there's no trigger warning necessary. A few, like there's the one guy who offers to wash her clothes in the little town she stops in. And he tells her it's because she's wearing a POW MIA bracelet that her friend Amy had given to her and had worn years before the hike. And I just thought it was really lovely, like the way that people look to connect with each other. And so many
Yeah.
of the people in these little towns and these little stops, like they love the PCT hikers.
Right.
It's like
Yeah,
so
they're
excited to
excited.
see who comes through.
Totally.
She meets other hikers who are hiking the trail. There's all these cool places where it's called the Hikers Register, where hikers can they're kind of coming down the trail or they're going up. So you can see ahead like what the conditions are and people can leave little
Right.
notes. And she meets this man named Greg who she had kind of been following, or he'd been following her. And I forget. Sometimes I'm like, who is following who? But she meets Greg.
Right.
And this is the guy who'd been planning this hike for years. And he's like a more professional hiker than she is.
Yeah.
But Cheryl says that he was very kind to her. And she writes, "You're doing fine, Cheryl," he said. "Don't worry about it too much. You're green, but tough. And tough is what matters most out here. Not just anyone could do what you're doing." She continues, "Inspired by Greg's faith in me, I didn't give quitting another thought."
Oh,
I know it's like just when she needs someone,
Yeah.
which I think like happens to me in my life. If I were to really open myself up to like connecting with people, I don't know, like I do get like little nods of encouragement out of really random, interesting places sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
I do think connection is really beautiful. And that's why, like, I wish that my like inherent desire to trust people was 100% safe, you know?
I completely agree with that. I feel like there's a lot of energy that goes into not trusting people. And obviously, what, like we've mentioned, it's for good reason. We're just trying to protect ourselves. But yeah, I think I love that she really gives people credit where it's due. And she certainly highlights when someone makes her feel that ick feeling, but then she talks about a lot of great men that she comes across on the trail who are nothing but sweet and just treat her like a human, and there's no agenda or expectations of her. It's just two people on the PCT. No need to make it anything more than that. So there's a good balance of that. You know, you can tell she's not like seeking that out in anyone. Like she just feels it when she feels it and then doesn't when she doesn't.
Exactly.
But I agree. It's yeah.
She also meets Albert and Matt, their father and son duo. And Albert is the one who helps her repack her pack, discarding the things that she doesn't need,
Yes.
including the 11 condoms that she brings on the trip. That was
11.
so funny. She's like, I put one back in the pack just in case.
So cute.
Albert also asks her, he's like really cute and like sweet about it, but he's like, excuse me, I hope you don't mind, but how often are you urinating on the trail?
Oh, yeah.
Because it is really important when you're doing
Right.
these long hikes to keep track of that so that you understand that you're not in dehydration mode.
Completely. Yeah. Really valid question to ask.
Really valid. And Cheryl was like,
Yeah.
oh shit, I hadn't even really like been keeping track and thinking about it. And
Yeah.
Albert tells her that Boy Scouts rule is 7 is ideal, but that they've been lucky to only pee about 3 times a day because of the heat at this point in the journey.
Okay.
So
Gosh.
I thought that was interesting. Like, if you're ever out there hiking for
Right.
the whole day, like hopefully you're peeing between 3 and 7 times.
There you go.
Albert and Matt actually eventually have to leave the trail after drinking water and getting a parasite.
Oh,
Yeah, which
I feel like I missed that
oh
part.
yeah. I think it's like
Whoa.
the next stop. And so Cheryl will get into it and Cheryl will really like go into the ways that she works to purify the water that she finds
Right.
later and the importance of that because
Yes.
apparently this parasite thing is pretty common, but you have to go to the hospital. You have to stop your hike.
Oh my God, that would be such a big deal. Like,
Devastating. Like people plan
oh God.
for months. This is not just like a hey, Lauren, let's go hike in my backyard. Like this is a thing that
Yeah.
people travel to and yeah,
Yeah.
to have it change your
Oh
plans
my
like that.
gosh. Yeah, it's a big deal.
It's interesting that you talked about them not having an agenda when it came to meeting with Cheryl, because she actually kind of struggles with that. She struggles with who she is around these guys that she meets. She writes, I'd never been that way in my life, interacting with men in an even keeled indifference that being one of the guys entails. I'd been a girl forever, familiar and reliant upon the powers my very girlness granted me. Suppressing these powers gave me a gloomy twinge of guilt. Being one of the guys meant I could not go on being the woman I'd become expert at being among men.
Yeah, I mean, she certainly talks about having an agenda sometimes, you know, or like having the condoms and coming off across mostly men on the trail and finding some of them attractive or, you know, getting a certain vibe from someone. And I also think that was so honest of her too. She wasn't just like everyone out here is sexualizing me or, you know, it's like
she was kind of sexualizing
a lot of the men. Yeah. And I just love how honest that is. But yeah, that's probably such a trip to go from your real world where at first glance everyone notices she's an attractive young woman, and then to then be like dirty and grimy on the trail, and no one really, most people didn't care about that. They were like, how many miles, how much are you urinating, you know? So yeah, she's like, oh, we're very human on this level. Interesting.
This entire trip is just stripping her of these like self-labeled identities that she's created through her relationships and experiences with the world, but seems like it's really scary to realize like why you are the way you are. But it's liberating. And I think it's a really necessary journey as well.
Totally.
Because it's like, what if that's not actually how you want to be? It's just how you felt you had to be.
Yeah. Just how you've been for the majority of your life, but you can change that identity.
Yeah, of course.
Very cool.
Cheryl meets all these people and more. And at various points, like they'll sort of hike together, but she's there to hike this alone. And that's very important to her. So she'll kind of like hang back and they actually are like faster because their packs are a lot lighter. She writes, alone had always felt like an actual place place to me, as if it weren't a state of being, but rather a room where I could retreat to be who I really was. The radical aloneness of the PCT had altered that sense. Alone wasn't a room anymore, but the whole wide world. And now I was alone in that world, occupying it in a way I never had before. Living at large like this without even a roof over my head made the world feel both bigger and smaller to me. Until now, I hadn't truly understood the world's vastness, hadn't even understood how vast a mile could be, until each mile was beheld at a walking speed. And yet there was also its opposite, the strange intimacy I'd come to have with the trail, the way the pinyon pines and monkey flowers I'd passed that morning, the shallow streams I'd crossed, felt familiar and known, though I'd never passed or crossed them before. Ugh, so beautiful. So she gets to this section of snow, and like she had been hearing ramblings of people being like, it snowed a lot this year. Like, how crazy.
Yeah.
And Greg, who's this more experienced hiker, is like, I don't know if I'm going to do it. Like, we picked the wrong year to hike the PCT. And she's like, no, I'm doing this. This is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But she goes through one section and like she uses her little ice axe the way Greg taught her. And then she realizes this is actually unsafe and dangerous. And like my life could be in peril. And so she makes a decision to skip over the next 450 miles. And she's really bummed until she realizes that if she just adds Oregon to her time, then she can make up for it. Greg bypasses it too because he's also smart, and they take a bus and they hitchhike. At one point they stay at a hotel, and she writes that in the bathroom she's startled by her reflection. She writes, bruises that ranged in color from yellow to black lined my arms and legs, my back and rump, as if I'd been beaten with sticks. My hips and shoulders were covered with blisters and rashes, inflamed welts and dark scabs where my skin had broken open from being chafed by my pack. Beneath the bruises and wounds and dirt, I could see new ridges of muscle, my flesh taut in places that had recently been soft.
Ooh,
so she's having a physical transformation. She takes the bath and she's like, it immediately turns black and I have to drain it and like take another one.
Oh my God. That would be such a trip to look at yourself in the mirror, full body after
months of
however
not
long
seeing
it was.
yourself.
She's just,
I think it's been at least a month.
Yeah. I've never, just because of reflections and phones and everything, I don't go a day without seeing my reflection. It's so wild to think about that. I mean,
I'm sorry, did you say wild?
Take a drink.
No, it is. It is strange to wrap your head around that.
Yeah.
And then not only are you seeing your reflection for the first time, but it is very different than the last time you saw yourself.
Trip.
I love it. So she's back on the PCT. And even though she thought she skipped the part with snow, there's still a lot of snow. And at this point, she actually got rid of the ice axe because she didn't think she'd need it anymore. And she's kind of following in footsteps of these other hikers that she had met. But it's really difficult. She gets lost because like the trail is completely covered in snow and all of these markers aren't there, but she just keeps pushing on with faith that she's going in the right direction. And she, she writes, uncertain as I was, I pushed forward. I felt right in my pushing, as if the effort itself meant something, that perhaps being amidst the undesecrated beauty of the wilderness meant that I too could be undesecrated, regardless of what I'd lost, of what had been taken from me, regardless of the regrettable things I'd done to others or myself, or the regrettable things that had been done to me. Of all the things I'd been skeptical about, I didn't feel skeptical about this. The wilderness had a clarity that included me. Okay, so as she's hiking, she's reflecting on some things, but it's not necessarily the things that she thought, right? Like she thought she'd be like really like meditating on like her mother and relationships. But she writes this, of all the things I'd done in my life, of all the versions of myself I'd lived out, there was one that had never changed. I was a writer. Someday I intended to write a novel of my own. I felt ashamed that I hadn't written one already. In the tumult of the past year, it seemed as if writing had left me forever. But as I hiked, I could feel that novel coming back to me, inserting its voice. Then there's this really scary moment where Cheryl runs out of water and it's extremely dangerous. It's really hot. And she writes about how she couldn't even spit. That's how dehydrated she was. There were supposed to be these tanks, reserves with water at various points on the PCT. And like in the register, the hikers coming down had said there was water in there. So she didn't pack as much water as like she would have had it said that it was empty. When she reaches it, it basically is empty. It's just very, very murky, muddy water at the bottom of this reserve. And she writes about how she has to like pump the water through this filtered thing for her bottle, but that the water was so thick that it was really hard to do. And she's so fatigued that like her arm is shaking, but she knows I have to get water. I have to, or I will die. And then after she pumps it, she has to put an iodine pill in the water and wait for 30 minutes for it to kill all the bacteria. She does that like 4 or 5 times because that's how thirsty she is. And she talks about being so exhausted that she just falls asleep kind of right there. She doesn't even have the energy to basically flick her wrist and set up her tent because that's how easy it is to set up her tent. And then she wakes up hours later covered in frogs.
Oh, the frogs.
The frogs.
Oh my gosh.
It's like
the way she describes that.
Their little like rubbery wet feet all over her. Ooh.
Yeah. Tiny cold hands. Like that's exactly how that would feel.
Yes. So then she makes it back to another stop and she meets a man named Rex, and he adds to the chorus of other people who have told Cheryl the entire time that her boots are way too small. And she's like, no. I went to REI. They helped me. I walked around. And he was like, I don't know what to tell you, Cheryl. You're losing toenails. Yeah. That's not right. Your boots are too small.
And something I've learned is I have quite a few friends who run, long distance runners, and they've lost toenails just doing, a 7, 8, 9 mile run. And it's because your feet are swelling up when you're running. And so even if you're getting the right size, your feet maybe will swell up and grow about half a size when you're running. And so that's where your feet are chafing. So when you're getting hiking boots or running shoes, it's good to get like half the size up. So you have a little bit of room.
Now we know. Thank you, Lauren.
Oh. Well, I am your hiking.
You are my hiking
camping friend.
But seriously, I was wondering that. I was like, why did the REI people get it so wrong?
It's not normal.
It's okay, interesting. So, but Rex tells her, he's like, they have a guarantee. If you call them, they'll send you the next size up for free. She's like, yay. Of course, that doesn't go according to plan. They didn't have the address right. And so they didn't send them. And she's like waiting at this stop, like postponing her trip. And she calls them and they're like, oh, sorry. And so she's like, just send it to the next stop. I have to keep going.
Right.
She will not put the boots on though, because just even looking at them, it fills her with like dread and pain and agony. But she takes them with her. And instead she starts walking in her sports sandals and she like duct tapes them over and over again so that they'll last. At one point, her boot flies off of her of Monster and like goes off the side of the mountain, and then she just gets angry and she throws the other one.
I can't even believe that happens. I mean,
it really, like, if I didn't know this was a true story, I would think you were making it up. You know what I mean? Like, no,
totally.
Cheryl,
if you just watched
crazy.
The movie or something, you'd be like, well, this was for dramatic effect.
They added that in. No, they didn't.
No.
She hikes a stretch in sports sandals, and she does make it to the next stop, and she gets her boots, and they still hurt her. So there you go.
Yeah. You can't prepare for everything.
At that point, her feet are just so like tore up that she's just like, whatever. I mean, what can you do?
Yeah.
She's about to partake on her longest stretch between like stops, 156 miles. And this is where she's going to say goodbye to California and hello to Oregon. And on her last night in California, she's looking up at the stars and thinking about her father. And she writes that she constantly thought of how amazing it was that he didn't love her the way that he was supposed to. And this was a reminder for me that the word amazing doesn't just mean good things. It can actually, it just means like a large amount, I guess, or it can actually mean
grandiose.
Yeah. When I actually Googled it, awful came up as a synonym, which I thought was interesting.
It's kind of like the word incredible. It's just, we use it with such a positive kind of connotation, but it's like, it means not credible. Like it's, it's unbelievable,
Right. And that can be good or bad.
Right.
She writes, it occurred to me that I didn't have to be amazed by him anymore. There were so many other amazing things in this world. They opened inside of me like a river, like I didn't know I could take a breath. And then I breathed. I laughed with the joy of it. And the next moment I was crying my first tears on the PCT. I cried and I cried and I cried. I wasn't crying because I was happy. I wasn't crying because I was sad. I wasn't crying because of my mother or my father or Paul. I was crying because I was full of those 50-some hard days on the trail and of the 9,760 that had come before them too. I was entering, I was leaving. I felt fierce and humble and gathered up inside. I love that she's finding what she needs on her journey, because that wasn't guaranteed.
Not at all. And it wasn't instant. I mean, she had to overcome all these physical feelings in her body. It's like she didn't even have the capacity to then go, how do I really feel about my father? And it's like, as she's just becoming more of a seasoned hiker and she's carrying that pack and, kind of separating her brain from the pain in her feet and things like that, she gets there and she has these realizations.
Yeah.
So cool.
Right before she crosses into Oregon, her bracelet gets stuck stuck on a bush and like flings off. It makes her sad. And then she realizes maybe this is just a symbol of things that I don't need anymore. It's perhaps the lightening of the figurative load. But then she thinks about the soldier whose name was on the bracelet. His name was William J. Crockett. He was also from Minnesota, and he had been about Cheryl's age when he died in Vietnam. His remains had never been found. But she writes that there is nothing to do but go on. Right. But I love that she took the time to like tell us who was on the bracelet. And I think those bracelets are really beautiful, that people wear them to commemorate people that they never even met, but just to basically say thank you for your life. Like, I recognize that you were here, and I recognize that you're no longer here, but you matter.
Totally. Right. And here we are in this moment, using his name, reading him in this book. I mean, it's just,
it continues.
Beautiful.
Yeah. She's in Oregon. She gets her new guidebook, the Pacific Crest Trail Volume 2, Oregon and Washington. Okay, this is wacky and awesome. At a campground in Ashland, which is her first little stop, there's this girl from Switzerland, and she like overhears that Cheryl's doing this hike. And she goes there and she's like, the spirits told me I have to rub your feet. And Cheryl's like,
God, don't you love that woman?
I know, it's like, where are you? I will come to you. Cheryl's like, no, you don't want to touch my feet. And this woman is like, no, please, you have to let me. You have to let me do this.
My calling.
Yeah. She writes that this woman said, in Switzerland, we have great respect for people who travel the pilgrim way, which I love, the idea of, taking everything that you need with you. She also meets Jonathan, a bartender in Ashland. They go on a sweet date. They end up having sex. So she gets her some on the trail, but she writes about being nervous because her body is really rough looking, and like the skin is really calloused, but he's so beautiful with her and so sweet. Yeah. And then she has this strange moment where she's on the beach with Jonathan, and she realizes that she had been in the exact same spot with Paul. She writes, I could feel the memory of it like a cloak on my skin, who I'd been when I'd been here with Paul, and what I'd thought would happen and what did, and who I was now, and how everything had changed. It just is like the best laid plans, like you can sit and plan your life, but you just never know what life is going to bring your way.
Yeah.
I think it's also good to really reflect on how far you've come sometimes. I've been here before, and now I'm here again, and I'm different.
Right. And I'm different. I know. I remember that part in the book almost made me, when she's with Jonathan and she's like on this date and she has sex and she's like, talk about a new life and all these things. Last time she was there, she was with her husband, but it made me feel kind of lonely for her because she like walks off from their little picnic table and kind of just has a little moment to herself, which I love that she does throughout the whole journey. She doesn't like latch onto people. She just kind of keeps her distance and then realizes, oh, last time I was here was with Paul. And it just made me feel like, oh my gosh, like he just pops up for her, like there's clearly so much love for him, even if it's not in the marriage sense. And that wasn't a marriage she wanted to continue. It's like, just goes to show things are not that black and white. You could still love someone and need to divorce or need to change things.
Kind of felt like she loved him. She just couldn't be the person that he deserved to be with at that time in her life. And then obviously she ends up finding someone else and has a beautiful family. But it can be really sad to like just realize you're not on the same page, even if you desperately want to be on the same page. Can't force yourself to be ready for something that you're not ready for.
Absolutely.
So she's back on the trail, and her mother's birthday arrives, and it would have been Bobby's 50th birthday had she lived that long. And she thinks about her mother and all the wonderful and magical and perfect ways that she was. But then these feelings morph into anger. And Cheryl thinks of all the ways that Bobby had failed her, and that her biggest failure was her dying. She writes this really like sad, poignant paragraph where she's like, I didn't even have the chance to like pull away from her and go back to her again.
Oh, gosh.
It's just all of the life unlived. And it does feel unfair. It sucks.
Totally.
It sucks when people die at whatever point in their life, but like, especially when they die young, especially when like you still need them.
Oh, I know that part was huge. The way she just described like just a very normal transition in a mother-daughter relationship to pull away a little bit, become who you are and come back. And they went to college together, and maybe she was kicking herself for not always embracing her in the hallways and just feeling like, oh my God, I didn't even get to hit that stage of our relationship where she could kind of rebel for a minute and come back to her mom, because you just never know when someone's going to leave. That part's so huge moment.
But it was the necessary, like, this is what I think as the reader, I was waiting for, this big moment with her mom,
right?
Whatever that was. When it was surprising, and grief is surprising, and it's not linear, and
absolutely,
it's not something you just get over. It's something that you just learn to live with, and it'll always be a part of you. I thought that this was really interesting, where she admits that she ingested some of her mom's ashes. And that was
Yes.
like a holy smokes moment for me. I'm not going to lie,
Uh-huh.
but I get
Yeah.
it. Like I do get it.
Yeah, I know. It was really
I have
sweet.
no
And
judgment.
yeah, not at all. No, I don't know what that kind of loss feels like. And if that made her feel closer to her mom, amen.
Yeah.
Like, again, very vulnerable and just so honest. She could have left that out. She didn't. She's like, this is me. Like,
Yeah.
and
This is what I
her
needed in that
affair.
moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all these things that she's just like, it's a part of my story. Of course, I'm going to include it.
I love it. She didn't try to paint herself as
Yeah.
this like perfect person. She was like, no, I was broken and ugly and a mess and I
Hmm.
did things. And I just wanted to see what happened when I hiked this trail and see who I could
Yeah.
be, and what I could realize about myself. She writes, the PCT had gotten easier for me, but that was different from it getting easy. I love
Mm.
that idea, like, and trying to apply that to other parts of your life.
Right.
She meets new friends along the way, these guys that she calls the three young bucks. And one of them asks
Yes.
her, hey, what's your trail name? And she's like, I don't know. And he's like, I'm going to think on this.
Yeah.
And then this is where we get to the part that I had talked about earlier. The one nefarious interaction that she has. She's hiking by herself and she's like near a water source and these two men come up to her and they're looking for water. Cheryl helps them. Like she filters water for them and fills up their little cans of water. And she writes, I didn't like the way he was looking at me, openly appraising my body. I wouldn't let you come out here if you were my girlfriend. That's for shit shock, sure, the redheaded man said. She's got a really nice figure, don't she? The sandy haired man said, healthy with some curves, just like I like. Ugh, the way that they're talking about
God.
her, like she's not even there.
I know. Such a stark difference from Greg, for example, who's like, oh, how's the trail going for you so far? Like, she's got so many other interesting things to talk about than her fucking
I
figure,
know, just immediately being objectified.
These,
Cheryl's getting major red flags, just like you and Claudia did. And she tries to like get away from them and like be very short. The sun is setting and she's kind of like, oh, you should go. I should go. We should all go.
mhm.
I'm going. And then they leave. And this is where she had planned to camp. So she's like putting up her tent and one of them comes back and he's like, oh, I thought you were leaving. And she's just like, oh, like you should go. It's getting dark. And fortunately, his friend comes and it's like, what are you
Mhm.
doing? Like, we need to go. And he leaves. And Cheryl has this moment where she's like, I'd unpacked everything. This is where I was planning to hike. It was getting too dark, really, for me to move on at this point, but I packed everything up. And she writes, I walked and I walked, my mind shifting into a primal gear that was void of anything but forward motion. I walked until walking became unbearable, until I believed I couldn't even walk one more step. And then I ran.
Oh my gosh, it's clearly the most terrified she feels on the trail. And she had encountered a bull and a fox and
Rattlesnakes.
rattlesnakes.
Yeah.
And, I
Been
mean,
dehydrated. And yeah.
and this man who, like she says after that moment passes, she's like, I'm safe, nothing happened, like I am safe. Oh my God, just the fact that he gave her that feeling, which was so not created in her head. I mean, he watched her change
Yeah.
her
Yeah.
clothes. I mean, it
He's just
was like he
commenting
was
a lot on her
preying on
body.
her,
Yeah. He was preying on her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Completely. And that's enough to just freak you out. I mean, oh, she started running. Can you imagine what that pack on and how her feet are feeling? It's just like fight or flight moment.
She's gotten away from these horrible men. And she gets back to her friends. And one of the young bucks is like, I have your name, your trail name. You are the queen of the PCT because people just seem to go out of their way to help you. And
Yeah.
she's like, is that true? And then literally right after that, this guy's like, hey, would you like a cabin here for the night at a discounted rate?
I'll make you cocktails. She's like, all right, I guess I am the queen.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. It's beautiful. She writes, all the time I'd been fielding questions about whether I was afraid to be a woman alone, the assumption that a woman alone would be preyed upon. I'd been the recipient of one kindness after another. Aside from the creepy experience, I had nothing but generosity to report. The world and its people had opened their arms to me at every turn.
Beautiful.
Then Cheryl bids them all farewell because she has to finish this alone. She comes
Right.
upon this like little river and she writes, I went to the river and squatted down and splashed my face. It was narrow and shallow here, so late in the summer and so high up, barely bigger than a stream. Where was my mother? I wondered. I'd carried her for so long, staggering beneath the weight of her. On the other side of the river, I let myself think, and something inside me released. It's just all that she needed. She found what she
Completely.
needed,
Yeah.
That's all you want for the people you love. And you grow to love Cheryl when you're reading her memoir,
Completely.
you're just so happy. It's not perfect. Life isn't this perfect bow. She still has to learn how to exist in a world without her mother, but she no
Yeah.
longer feels the weight of her.
Right.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Right. It's just like part of life. I mean, which is the worst thing to hear when you're grieving and stuff. But when you come around to kind of realize, wow, yeah, I'm gonna die one day, and I'm always gonna have my mother with me, whether she's here physically or not. It's just such a beautiful realization for her. I know it's really emotional. She's so authentic,
Yeah.
with her feelings around that.
Yeah. And she helps us put into words and articulate what this experience is for us in our own lives.
Yeah.
I feel like this would be so helpful for anybody living through extreme grief or losing,
Yes.
especially like a parent.
Completely.
It's like
Yes. Oh
she
my
gets it.
gosh. She gets it.
She makes it to the end of her hike, her experience to the bridge of the gods. She writes, I had arrived. I'd done it. It seemed like such a small thing and such a tremendous thing at once, like a secret I'd always tell myself, though I didn't know the meaning of it just yet. Oh, I love it.
Oh, that must be so
Oh, I
surreal.
know. Wouldn't that be so surreal?
Something built up in your head like that,
Yeah.
and then you accomplish it. She's like, oh my God,
Yeah. Like, what do I
I
do
did it?
now?
For real, yeah. What do you do?
And then she writes, thank you. I thought over and over again, thank you, not just for the long walk, but for everything the trail had taught me and everything I couldn't know yet, though I felt it somehow already contained within me. How in 4 years I'd cross the bridge of the gods with a man and marry him in a spot almost visible from where I now sat. How in 9 years that man and I would have a son named Carver, and a year and a half after that, a daughter named Bobby. How in 15 years I'd bring my family to the same white bench and the four of us would eat ice cream cones while I told them the story of the time I'd been here once before, when I'd finished walking a long way on something called the Pacific Crest Trail. How it would be only then that the meaning of my hike would unfold inside of me, the secret I'd always told myself finally revealed. It was all unknown to me then, as I sat on the white bench on the day I finished the hike. Everything except the fact that I didn't have to know, that it was enough to trust that what I'd done was true, to understand its meaning without yet being able to say precisely what it was, to know that it was everything. It was my life, like all lives, mysterious and irrevocable and sacred, so very close, so very present, so very belonging to me. How wild it was to let it be.
Oh, that made me feel emotional.
It's like she just finally found the peace that she was looking for.
Absolutely. And she has this family and these kids. I mean, do you resonate with that at all? I mean, sure, just having kids of your own and being like, wow, all of my life choices had led me to this. And
Yeah.
look
Yeah.
at these humans I've created. I mean, so neat.
It is kind of cool to visit spots with my children now that I've went to before. Like my husband and I took our engagement photos at this hotel, and we just went back to the hotel with the same photographer, my friend Betsy, and took pictures with the kids 10
So
years
sweet.
after we got
Yeah.
engaged.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
so surreal. When you go to a physical place and like you have a memory that exists there, it's
Yeah.
crazy how it just jumps you
Yeah.
right back to where you were.
It's crazy to feel like yourself, but have new perspectives or like some more hindsight
Yeah.
on everything in the last 10 years or whatever
Yeah.
amount of time. It's so cool. That's such a like visceral experience.
Yeah, yeah. So that was the memoir, and then I like to always end the podcast with some quotes that maybe like I couldn't find the right place to put them in the outline. But in this one, there's only
Sure.
one, and this was
Okay.
just her book is broken up into 5 parts, and she has quotes before each part. And this was
Yeah.
before part 5. It's Abraham Lincoln. I'm a slow walker, but I never walk back.
I loved
I
that.
loved that too. And I felt like that just really is what this entire life experience that we have is about. Like,
Mhm.
you can't go back. All you can do is go forward. As long as you are moving forward, you can be a slow walker.
Yeah.
You can do things like you're capable of more than you know. You just have to keep moving forward.
Completely. It goes in line with not living in the past and not living in the future and going, if only I had started this, started school or had kids sooner, whatever your timeline looks like. It's just keep moving forward. Everything is falling into place the way it should.
Be where you are, take the steps as you take them.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That is Wild by Cheryl Strayed. The beautiful, vulnerable, messy, open, ugly, transformation that happened when she just allowed herself to be and picked this physical task.
Absolutely. No, I really think this book can be applied to anyone and their goals and just wanting to make a change in your life, big or small, all of it. That's what's so beautiful about her whole story is like she does run into issues and she can't plan for it all. And it is ugly and raw, just like she is, she just pours herself on that paper. And I love her writing style and just everything about it was so.
Yeah. And that's what I love about memoirs is that they're not self-help books and they're not guidebooks.
No.
They're not like, hey, this is how to do XYZ. It's just like,
Right.
this was my experience. I was broken and I was searching for a way through the pain. And I had this crazy idea and then I did it and I was transformed. And
Right.
maybe you'll have like a crazy idea and you'll do it and you'll be transformed too. Or maybe you won't,
Yeah.
but like, this is my experience,
Yeah.
and it's
Completely
wild.
understand. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Lauren, so much for talking with me today. I'm so glad I could have my hiking, camping, rock climbing friend to chat about wild with.
Thank you, Alex. This was a blast. Such a good conversation, too. It felt like a therapy session.
Oh my gosh. Well,
in the best way.
Both of us just asking the questions and reflecting, So, but thank you. That's really sweet. That's really sweet. Great. Well, I can't wait to talk to you very soon about the movie. It's going to be so fun to having just read it and then watch the movie. I always love what they do, how they do things. So I can't wait to dig into that with you.
Oh, yeah.
Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to Babes in Bookland. To access the full version of this episode, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts or support us on Patreon. Visit babesinbookland.com for more information.